Hi, Ryan here. Welcome to the YouTube home of Novelists Inc., NINC, the organization for career novelists where the average member has published more than a dozen novels and where many members are national bestsellers. On this channel, we talk about the craft and business of writing. So, writers, are you thinking about collaborating with another author? Co-writing sounds great in theory, but how does it actually work? What makes some author collaborations thrive while others fall apart? Today, we're talking with attorney turned romantic suspense author Olivia Rigal about author partnerships, the good, the tricky, and the stuff you need to include in a contract. In this chat with NINC member Michele Dunaway, Olivia breaks down what it really takes to build a successful co-writing partnership, from finding the right partner to protecting your rights. Enjoy. While Novelists Inc., NINC, strives to provide accurate and helpful information, NINC does not assume any liability for or endorse any opinions, advice, instructions, products, errors, or omissions in the following video. Viewers are solely responsible for how they interpret and apply any NINC content.
So, what do you want to know?
Everything. Tell me about just the process of collaboration. How did you get started in it? What made you think you wanted to do it? And then, how do you find that person that you want to collaborate? Let's start there.
So, my experience has been with three people. Um, One of them stopped writing since, but it's not related to me. It's just life got in its way. She needed money on a more regular income that, the randomness of writing.
Mm-hmm.
The other one just wanted to be a USA bestseller author, and once the goal was reached, the interest in writing was lost. And the third one is a French author. Her name is Tamaha Baliana. And we were both Montlake authors in France. And we met at a signing, and she said to me, "Oh, I noticed you've been co-writing. How does that work?" And just my answer was, "I guess the best way to show you is let's co-write a book together." And she said, "Oh, I'll think about it." And I thought that was going to be it. Because she writes romantic comedy and I write romantic suspense. And I know she had written some romantic suspense, but her niche is really romantic comedy. That's what people go to her for. But then a few years later came COVID, and she said, "You know what? Let's try it. I have more time," which was crazy because she's got three kids that were at home.
Yeah.
I mean, school age kid. So we wrote one book, and then at the end of the book, the hero had a best friend, and the hero and the best friend saved the kid sister. So at the end of book one, we said, well, why don't we write a book for the best friend? And then after book two, we said, let's write a book for the kid sister. And so 12 books later, we stopped because she's obviously making a lot more from her romantic comedy than she was from her romantic suspense. So she went back to her natural playground. But the reason why it worked so well is we were both on the same page, which means we both write full time. This is a job for us. This is not a hobby. If we say you'll have the chapter tomorrow night, you will have the chapter tomorrow night. The only time when I failed to deliver the chapter tomorrow night was the day my mother passed. And then she finished the book by herself. She was great. She didn't complain, didn't say anything. And she says, "I understand you're not in the mood, so I'll finish it." That's one thing you have to know about finding a co-author. You have to be on the same page. And if listening to this, you remember to one word, contract.
Mm-hmm.
Write a contract. The contract is fundamental because whatever you have put in writing cannot be debated later. And that's not me being a lawyer. That's me being a common sense person. I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm giving you common sense advice, which is um, put in writing everything that comes to your mind. Who is going to publish it? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be me? Or are we going to create a separate KDP account? Or are we going to put it in a book funnel because now, draft to digital, because draft to digital has something amazing now. You put your book in there, you say, I am one author, this is the co-author, we share 50-50, and you don't have to do any accounting. Book funnel will pay you, and draft to digital, why do I say book funnel? Draft to digital will pay you your share every month, and that's magical.
Hmm.
The contracts needs to decide what happens in case one of you kicks the bucket or becomes incapacitated. Who gets to decide if you unpublish it, if you change the cover, if you advertise for it? What we did is whoever kicks the bucket first, the other one has sole management of the property and decides, because my kids don't care and they don't know anything about publishing. So I'd rather have someone who knows something about the job take care of the books. What else do you need to know?
Um, I
To
mean, that's
whom
great to talk about the contracts. I would assume that includes like the costs, the upfront costs as well, like when you're doing, like if you're paying your editors and cover designers
Yes,
and
so
such.
you have to decide at the beginning. Maybe your co-author can make cover and you save on the price of cover. It turns out Tamaha and I, we both write very clean copy, so we figured we could do without an editor and we would each proofread the other's work. And there's, yeah, while I'm on contract, who owns the character? Who owns the world? Can you draw somebody from your previous series into the new series? Can you take a character from the co-written world and take it in your other series? And all this has to be in writing so that there's no one coming to say, oh, you owe me part of the proceeds from the sales of this book because you took one of the characters from the co-written world. Um, there's now about the technicality of co-writing. There's several ways to do it. I know some co-authors where one writes the book and the other one makes an overpass, and then the two of them edit the book together. I've never done it that way. What I've always done is at the beginning of the book, we allocate a character. Like, I'm going to be the girl this time, and you're going to be the boy. And we have one chapter her, one chapter him, and we each write one chapter. And the game, which makes the book really good for the audience, for the readers, is when you try to trap your writing partner. Like at the end of the chapter, the car drives off the road and it rolls down the cliff. Ha ha, now it's your time. Tell me what happened.
Got it. How has co-authoring sort of affected you as a writer? Like, has it improved your craft? Has it changed your craft? Has it made you look things differently
So
sometimes?
it does, because there are things that my co-author wrote that I would never have thought about doing. Um, you you notice what you have in your language. Well, okay, you do not notice, like if you say something, like now when I go through my manuscript, I will go and search for just and for something. Just a minute. It's something he said or he felt something. No, I kick out all the something, and because those were my two go-to words. And you don't notice them when they're your own, but when there's somebody else's own word, that's the only thing that jumps at you all the time. So I think it makes you a better writer. It makes you a more tolerant person because if you're going to fight over each word and over each paragraph, forget it. What you can agree to is the female character is me. So every time you make the female character talk in your chapter, I will go and put my 2 cents in because it's my way of talking. And I want her to be consistent throughout the chapters. Also, when you're writing for yourself and not a publisher and you don't have a pre-order, your deadline is whatever you want it to be. So I had thought I'd have that book ready for March 1st, but nope, this is not going to happen. So we'll make it April 1st. And then 6 months later, the book is still not published. When you have a co-author and you're a responsible person, if you promised your chapter for tomorrow, you're going to be up all night, but your chapter is going to be done tomorrow.
Right. I can definitely understand that being on a deadline right now. So
Yeah.
I mean, if when you have a deadline, you have to meet it. When you don't, how do you handle those disagreements sometimes? Are there disagreements? I mean, I know you have the contract, but that's sort of the legal aspect. But how do you handle sometimes that emotional aspect when you might get a chapter back or it's late or you're sort of like, what is this? And I mean, that may not have happened to you in a partnership. So perhaps think even if hypothetical.
I was lucky that it didn't happen with the partner I wrote 12 books with, but it did happen to one of my previous partner who had huge family issues when we were finishing. Like we wrote book one was a hit. So we decided let's write book two. And in the middle of book two, some drama happened in her family, and her head was no longer in the game. Like I had a chapter, people were in a church for a funeral, they come out and they have an argument in the parking lot. And I get her chapter the next day, and the people are still in the church. They have not moved out. Like she didn't follow through. So um, you need someone who's not really bossy, and I'm very, very, very bossy. So you
In
have
a
to
good
let,
way.
in a good way. Yes, I say that. You ask my kids, they won't agree on it. But um, so you have to be ready to let go of some things. This is not your own personal group book, it's a teamwork. So you can say, listen, I saw that. And so she was very cool. She says, oh, change whatever you want. Like she couldn't care less. But I've never had a fight, an actual disagreement about what should happen there. And sometimes I said, oh, I was surprised. And Tamaha said, oh, you don't want it that way? No, no, I said, it's fine. It's actually nice that I was surprised.
Do you all
It,
do any type of brainstorming first before you start the book so you have a general idea, or does it just
so,
unfold?
yeah, that's also a thing. You have to write, if you're a pantser, you need to write with a pantser. Because
Okay.
if you're a plotter and you're writing with a pencil and the pencil goes totally off the grid, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Turns out I've always written with Panzer, and it's what's really great is you're writing a book and you're reading a book at the same time, because when you're writing the book, you're pushing the book forwards the way you want to see it go. But then you give the next chapter to your co-author, and your co-author can go in a totally different direction, something you would never have thought of making happen. So I'm a night owl. So I would write at night, I would send it to her, and then she writes in the morning. So I would get up in the morning and get up at noon and have my chapters at noon. And it was like, ooh, cool, I'm getting a new chapter in my book today. But
I
no,
think
to get back to we never fought.
I think that's fantastic. What do you do if one of you gets sort of stuck in like that rut where it's sort of like, okay, can't necessarily move this book forward the way I want? What could be a process there? Or
Oh, it's talking. It's
okay,
like, okay, you're married and your child is the book. You need to
Okay.
have a conversation about what you're going to do about that awful person your child brought back from school the other day, and that you don't want your kid hanging out with. So it's actually communication is key, and you need to, you can start, depending on how blunt you are, you can come up and say, listen, I didn't see it going that way. And I think if we go that way, we're going to be stuck. Or if we go that way, it's not within character. But you have to explain why you're not happy, um, and not because as a cat owner you'll understand, because you want to pee around the corner to mark your territory.
Hmm.
You want to do it because it's for the better, to make the book better, not just to assert your power.
Got it. Um, is that one of the issues you may see when you see, because you were saying you were teaching like a class on this, that other collaborators run into sometimes is this sort of butting of heads?
Yes, yes. If you have It often happens, I've seen it happen where you have a very established author, and instead of taking a ghostwriter, that author will write a plot, give it to someone, have that other person write the book, and then go back and rewrite it, and sometimes completely rewrite it. So you will have the big author name in big, and then collaborator in smaller. But as long as you decide at the beginning who's the boss and who has the final word, then you're fine. It's why I always say contract, contract, contract.
Contract. What do you think is that hardest part of co-writing? Is it even just getting started or finding a
No,
person or negotiating?
it's negotiating and finding the person who's on the right page.
Do you
So,
think you,
and
oh,
you were asking about the story. When we started with Tamaha, the first thing we had was, I'm an American soldier coming back from a mission, and I come home and I live with my kid sister that I raised because both of parents are dead. And she's 20, she's in college. And I found a note saying, I met the love of my life. His name is Dmitry or Vladimir or whatever Russian name we came up with. And he's taking me to Paris for the weekend. I'll call you. And then he gets a message on his answering machine saying, Dimitri has confiscated my passport. He's taken my credit cards. Come and help me. I'm in Cannes. Okay, so that was my character. Tamaha's character was, she's a police officer, and she's been set aside because she actually called the police of police on her corrupted superior. So now nobody will work with her. And my guy arrives in Cannes and he goes to the police station and he's complaining about the fact that nobody will help him. And she has nothing else to do because she's got no case, she's got no workload. And she goes in and helps him. And she's the love interest. That's all we had to start with.
okay. I love it. I mean, that's just, it's fun. I think sometimes writing, it's that discovery process in a way.
Yeah.
So, have you seen co-authors that, I mean, I know that you two have gotten to be good friends. So, do you think that you have to be friends to do this, or can you keep it a purely
No,
business
because we were
partnership?
not friends when we began. We
Hmm.
were author from the same publishing house. We both knew we had a good reputation, like we're moderately crazy. I'm talking for myself. She's not crazy at all. We were, and we agreed on the fact that we were going to write one book and see how it went. And always start with one book. It's
Okay.
like you get engaged before you get married.
That's just the best analogies. So,
Okay.
if an author is thinking that they want to co-write a book with somebody, just
Yeah.
for whatever reason, besides the contract, where should they start? Like maybe they're like, you know what, I think I want to do this. What's the process of, I guess, dating, so to speak, as you're
Yeah.
kind of trying to think, okay, who should I approach per se?
Well, you can go shoot for the moon and approach a superstar. Um, or you can see somebody who started at the same time of you that you did, who has made the same sort of progress and who is sort of stuck like you are. Or um, I believe being at the same level is best because there will be no jealousy. Um, and agreeing on what are you going to do? Are you going to write a novella? Like shoot for a
Hmm.
20,000 word novella. And if she writes shifters and you write bikers, maybe write shifter bikers so you can appeal to both your audiences. Um, Try to find somebody who writes adjacent but not identical genre so that you could spread. Because if you already have the same audience, then the growth is not going to be that great.
That's a really good point. Exactly. So yeah, I love it. So which book are you most proud of creating together? Do you have one?
With Tamaha, it's probably the first one that was really cool. It's called Riviera Security. That's the name of the series. And the book one is, God, the book one is Alzheimer. Let me go look.
Okay. Is there like while we're talking, is there like a type of story or genre that you would like to tackle next or anything? Like if there was something on your wish list, like I want to write this.
No, not really. Um, God, I can't believe I
I
can't
always
remember.
ask because sometimes I have this, people are like, you wrote uh, a story with ghosts, or you wrote a story with, like my very first story was a Highlander fanfic because why not? It was
Yeah,
1993, right?
yeah,
So it was just something fun. You get an idea, people talk in your head, you sort of have to, write it,
yeah.
whether it's
It's French Escapade.
excellent,
French
excellent.
Escapade. And the other co-writing book I'm the most proud of with Shannon McCallan, and it's called The Other Side of the Law. And it's 80,000 words, which is the longest book I have ever written,
That
or
is
we
awesome.
have ever written.
So speaking of all of those like words, what tools or systems or things might you use to stay organized and keep on track of the various versions?
Um, we had a Dropbox, and in the Dropbox, you would have chapter one in a doc, doc X. And when let's say she wrote the first chapter and it was chapter one, name of the book, Doc X. And then I would go in and I would make a copy and I would have chapter one, version two, and the name of the book. And then I would edit the book. And then she would go back and look at what I had edited and agree or not agree. And that was our first final version of chapter
Hmm.
one. And then we did that through the entire book. And at the end, and she's always done that. I know there's something in Word where you can take 20 documents and merge them into one. And then you have a final manuscript. And this is first final manuscript. And then she proofread it. And that's for final manuscript proofread one. And then I make a copy of it and it's final manuscript proofread two. And then we go through a software which I really like, and it's called Antidote. Antidote is a spelling and grammar program, and because it's Canadian, it does French and English.
Okay.
So for me, it's just perfect because I can't spell in any language.
I've discovered some things even after multiple proofreaders. I'm like, who let that slide through? And you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like how did that happen? And I'm an English teacher too.
Yeah.
So if you were going besides contracts and getting writing, what is the number one piece of advice that you would give somebody who is just starting to this process?
Be sure the person is on the same page than you, that, if it's a hobby for both of you and you have a deadline 6 months from now, that's fine. Just be on the same page. Um, I'm looking at my notes of my classes. Oh, yeah, because we've only talked about co-writing the same book,
Hmm.
but there's a thing that could be done, which is co-writing with a shared pen name.
Okay.
So
Yes, I'd love, tell me about that.
yeah, so let's say that we have an author who's called Jane Doe. Jane Doe doesn't exist. It's our common label. So we have a world in which we put things together. It's a shifter words, it's a biker's world, it's a Highlander words, whatever. And every once in a while, like every 2 months, you will have a Jane Doe and Michele Dunaway. And 2 months later, you would have a Jane Doe and Olivia Rigal. And then 2 months from now, they can be a Jane Doe and whomever wants to hop in with us. And the advantage of that is you really work the algorithm. Is every month or every 2 months, there, Jane Doe has a new book. And Jane Doe is the property of all three or four of us. So let's say there's four of us, we write 3 books a year in that world. And the readers get one book every month. So every 28 days, we get something that feeds the algorithm and pumps us up. So here again, it's a question of contract. And what's the sign up? Because you need at the end of your book, you need an email sign up form. So who is going to own that? Is it just the Jane Doe author and can you use it only for Jane Doe books? Or can the Jane Doe newsletter send an email when Michele Dunaway has a new book? So again, contract.
That brings up a little bit of that idea of marketing, like once the book is done and once the book is out there. Um,
Yeah.
are there people in the partnership that are maybe more strong on that on social media? Do you have social media?
Yeah.
What needs to be done in the contract or advertising dollars or something? How does that work?
Yeah, you have to have an agreement on the budget. You have to have an agreement on how you will pay the person who's going to put her time into the advertising. Now, in 2014, with Blair Babylon, in 14 months, we published 8 bundles. And the deal was there were 10 books in each bundles from 10 different authors. And we still had like something like 16 shares because the person who did the formatting and the publishing would get 2 extra shares. The people who would front up the advertising money, book the advertisers, would get 2 shares also. And the person who would do the Facebook ads, and at the time we used to, post in groups and email bloggers and all that jazz, would get 2 shares too. So again, agree in writing at the beginning and maybe set a budget for how much you're willing to spend, because we're not all on the same page. Some people would be okay with spending $500 a month, and some people would be not okay with that.
Right.
Um, there's one example of co-writing under a common umbrella that works amazingly well. It's the 1001 Dark Knight books. I don't know if you've seen them, but there's
Mhm.
Kennedy Ryan, there's Lexi Blake, there's Kristen Ashley, Larissa Joan. They all write under that 1001 Dark Night, and they have one person taking care of the ad. And it's usually tied to their own world, but you know what the level of heat is going to be and what the length is going to be.
Right. Yeah, I noticed a lot of that's another collaboration. A group of authors had just done, a bunch of Harlequin authors did like a side project where it was all in the same sort of world, but then they each wrote their own independent book, but then they
Mm-hmm.
fed off each other, sort of like the continuities that Harlequin does now. So that was, something that they had tried as they're, moving into their more indie sort of hybrid careers. So if they're creating like a shared world, is that also like if let's say we're going to be there, I think you just did this too, where there was 12 of you that didn't you do like it was calendar or there was one book a month, I remember. What-
It was no, actually, what we did is books for Christmas and then
That's
books
what it
for
was.
Valentine. So we decided we had a small town, and I can't remember. It's not Willow Creek. Willow Creek comes to mind because it's the first name AI will give you. You know, you'll have Lydia Chen living in Lido Creek, and her husband will be Marcus Chen. No, so we had that small town, and we had, we made a main street, and in that main street we had the coffee shop and the florist and the hairdresser, and then everybody had one of the main love interests who was from that town, and the other love interest from outside of town. And that requires that you be ready a lot in advance because you're going to write your book. And at the beginning, you're going to say, okay, my hero is the brother of your heroine. And we each write the book, and then I have to go read your book and decide that something that happens, like the heroine of your books are having coffee in a coffee shop. I'm going to be walking by that coffee shop and I have my hero noticing them in the window of the coffee shop. So you need to be ready enough in advance that the others can modify their books in order to include you so that once a reader has finished your book, the reader wants to know what happened to the other couples. And we
Right.
did that for Christmas. We did that for Valentine's Day next year. And the good thing is it's selling really well for Valentine this year. And in 2025 we did Halloween too.
So will that also involve sort of a contract on what
Yes.
expectations are for everybody who is, these are your
Yeah. Except
responsibilities?
that I don't practice what I preach here. We did it on a handshake.
Okay.
And some people dropped out and some people finished, and we had the basic idea. It's Halloween. There's a wedding in a Scottish castle. The Scottish castle also runs an event and hotel. And one of the heroine is the woman who's a witch who runs the castle, and everybody in the family is a witch. And then run with that.
I love it. So is there anything else that you would want to share that perhaps I haven't asked you already?
Okay, let me look at my note. Yeah, so find a compatible author, test run with a small project, um, use all the online collaboration tools, and establish clear communication protocol. Don't let anger fester uh,
Right.
and then blow up.
I would think that would be important, especially when you're dealing with people who, like you and I are both blunt. So,
Yeah,
versus some people just they don't want
too
to come and
polite.
say, what?
Yeah,
Too
too
polite?
polite.
Yeah. Like they'll just take it and absorb it, and you're like, and then it blows, and you're like, well, I didn't see this coming.
Yeah, so what needs to be in the contract? Who must do what? The scope of the work, the timeline, the decision-making process. Who has the last word? Who will own what? What are the intellectual property rights issue you can have? What is the publishing strategy? Are you going to be KU or going to be wide? If you're wide and your co-author is KU, it's a real question. Will you use D2D so you don't have to do any accounting? How much are you willing to spend to get the business started? Are you going to ready to invest hundreds of dollars in making good covers? How will you share the cost of doing business, profits, losses? Agree how it will be divided and see if anybody else advances some money that person be reimbursed first. Then you have who gets top billing. I mean,
I
obviously,
was,
if you're James Patterson, your
yeah,
name's going to be in big like this, and the co-author's name is going to be smaller. What happens if you don't agree on stuff? Um, there's a clause that's called the mutual destruction clause. You can decide that if you don't agree, you just unpublish and it's done. But that's really a waste of time because you've written that book, you've published it, and it can make money. So you can make an offer to buy back the right to your partner, and your partner has the right to refuse or to say, I will not let you buy it from me for that price, but I will buy it for you for that price, which tends to make you a little honest and make you make an offer that is a decent price and not a lowball price, because if you give a lowball price, you may be bought out for that lowball price. I touched on that already. What happens if an author dies or becomes incapacitated? So you want a survivorship and capability clause, like who gets the transfer. You want to set up a durable power of attorney. You want non-interference from family members. You want an explicit exclusion, and you want to tell your spouse or your children when you're capable. Like when I die or if I become a vegetable, this is my partner who will be handling it. Not that I don't trust you. It's
right.
just that it's her job, it's not your job. And prepare a backup plan, like if you both are in a car accident at the same time, have a third party who can manage your assets, which is always a good thing to have. And I
100%.
think that's about it. Yeah.
Awesome. I think this was very, very, seriously, very informative.
Hey, Ryan here again. If you're thinking of collaborating with another writer, we hope this interview with Olivia Rigal helps you get started on your path. And please remember to like and subscribe. This is a brand new channel. We'll be releasing a new video every week, and your feedback helps more people find us. If you'd like to know more about Novelists Inc. or today's presenters, we've put links in the description below. Until next time, may you find the perfect writing partner.